Hello everybody, hello my beautiful sensitive people. I'm off to work, but I decided to do a really quick video just to explain what was going on yesterday, because there's a little bit of confusion about what I do. So again, I want to go through that. When I put myself in the shoes of another person as an empath, I don't judge their feelings, I don't invalidate their feelings. I don't say that they should be allowed to be the leader of the free world. My job as an empath is to simply put on the shoes and the coat of the other person and put myself in the mind of that person. We all have biases. We all view the world from our own personal experiences. And the gift of empathy and empathy meditation is that it gives you this wonderful opportunity to be able to do that. So I want to talk a little bit about kids in cages and being an empath and how empaths are born, but we are also made. Human beings in their natural state are empathetic creatures. We're empathetic and we are capable of feeling one another's emotions, hopefully in ways that allow us to show compassion to one another. Things happen to us, either it can be organic, brain damage, or it can be cultural, it can be how one is raised, that can cause us to be incapable of accessing our own empathy. People have been talking a lot about children in cages on this channel, and how do I feel about children in cages? And I'm such a horrible person because I'm trying to put myself in the shoes of the monster to understand the monster. So again, to talk a little bit about my background, I'm an empath. I've been in 3 detention centers. I've been in 4 foster homes. I've been in 2 children's homes. What was it like when the first time I was in a detention center? I was 7 years old, and my mother was escaping a severe domestic violence, and she was trying to run away and flee to save her life because her partner was trying to kill her. And every time she would run away and hide in a new location, she would have to register to get welfare or financial aid. They would contact her partner, and then he would find her, locate her, and he would come and get her, because there was no protection for children who were victims of abuse, genital assault, torture, domestic violence. Women were seen as objects and possessions of men, as were children, and to some extent we see this phenomenon today. My job as a child, other than trying to survive and get food to eat, was to try and understand the monster that put me in the cage. I know what it is to be the child in the cage. I have been in that cage many times. I've got photographs of me in the cage. I want to understand the man that put me in the cage. I want to understand, and I want to love a person whose inhumanity is beyond my comprehension, because as somebody who's been in the cage many times, I had 2 choices. I could either fight, which I would have gotten killed at 7, or fall madly in love with the person that had done this to me so that I could survive. And that's really Stockholm Syndrome, and that's pretty much what I did. I learned to love the monster at a very early age. Now, people say they don't understand me. This is really the mind of an empath. Every empath I know has been in that situation in one way or another. We have been in that cage. I want to bring my sister, my older sister, onto the channel, she's also an empath. She's a professional empath. And she calls it our superpowers. She was the body I slept on in detention, because That was 1969, and I was a foster kid. And let me tell you, while I appreciate the empathy that people are showing and crying and screaming about detention centers, I want to tell you, I was there in 1969, and I remember the bologna sandwiches on white bread with mayonnaise, and evidently they're still feeding the kids, bologna on white bread. My job, what I get hired to do, what I've been trained to do, not by choice, I have to be able to put my own biases aside. You've hired me to put on Mr. Trump's coat, his shoes, and to tell you what the world looks like in his mind. Like all of us, he has his own biases, his own trauma, his own neurological issues, perhaps. We all come into this world with our own limitations in terms of how we perceive of the world. That's very different saying that than saying somebody has a pass. He doesn't get a pass. It's very different than saying I condone his actions. But I desperately, since I was at a very young age, I desperately needed to understand the monster, if nothing else than to survive it. So that's where I'm coming from. And so I apologize if people don't understand. But when I sit in Mr. Trump's shoes, that is what I feel. That I'm tired, I'm exhausted, the Dems don't understand me. And I want to have fun again. I want to have fun again, and I used to have fun. I used to wheel and deal and have a great time, and hey, why don't you folks send me out to do that, because that's what I'm good at. So in his mind, this is how he thinks. That's very different than saying he's empathetic or that he cares about the children in cages. I don't feel that at all. When I go into his energy, it feels like he's crying about how he's a victim. What about me? He's in such a defensive state that helps me understand early trauma in people before the age of 3. Because when I go into his energy, I feel like I am so defended, I'm incapable. I don't have the mental capacity to see how my actions are impacting other people. And that teaches me something about my own capacities to have empathy. It's how I myself can sometimes be so wrapped up in my own stuff, obviously not to the extent of the pathology of Donald Trump. But it has taught me something. It has allowed me to mature in a certain way by being an empath. People were also upset about Kim Jong-un and what I said about Kim Jong-un. But again, it's a great opportunity. This is a great opportunity, these empathic techniques, to put yourself in the shoes of someone who was born in North Korea. He wasn't born in Cleveland. He wasn't born in Dallas. He was born in North Korea, the son of the leader of North Korea, isolated from the world, told he was a god, and told that the entire world was out to destroy him. And so, not surprisingly, he grew up to be mentally unstable and paranoid. So that's, again, very different than saying, oh, he gets a pass. I have compassion for him. I have compassion for the monsters. I have compassion for the monsters that put me in the cage. I didn't get to go to the first grade. I couldn't read for the first grade. I only got to go 1 month in the first grade because we were too busy in hiding. We were in hiding. And eventually they caught us. They always catch you. They always find you, no matter how many times you run and no matter how many times you try to get away. The authorities will find you. And squad cars showed up at the house where my mother was holding up. The whole town came out to look. And they drugged me out along with my siblings, put me in the back of a squad car, and sent me to a detention center. And I got the bologna sandwich with mayonnaise. And there was a bench. We did get water in sippy cups, or in little cups. And there was nowhere to sleep. And I didn't get a blanket. I don't remember a blanket. I'll ask my sister when we interview her. And to stay warm, I slept on the older children because the floor was hard and cold. Those are my memories. So I love you all. Thanks for the feedback, but from the goodness of my heart, from the deepest of my heart, with love in my heart, please don't lecture me about the children in the cages, okay? This channel is not about me. It's not about Whimsy. This channel is about, we must begin to talk to one another. We must begin to put ourselves in the shoes of one another if we are going to stop the crazy. It is not a justification for child abuse. I 100% believe that everyone who did this has to be 100% accountable for their actions and be held accountable. It makes me think of people that inspire me, like Malcolm X, who had a huge spiritual awakening, and he began to feel empathy for people who were very different than himself, but at the same time he wanted the international courts to come in and start trying and charging people who had supported Jim Crow laws, and he was right to do that. He was right to feel that way. So yes, we have empathy for crazy people and for the monster that put me in the cage and for the monster that's putting these children in the cage. But be clear, it's not one monster and it's not new. We've been putting children in cages for a very long time. There are 500,000 children in foster care, and we age out of the system. I aged out of the system and I wound up on the streets when I was 18. I have slept under trees. I have gone unwashed for days. I have eaten out of garbage cans. Not fun. I'm not feeling sorry for myself. I have a happy life. I'm just saying there is a difference between trying to feel empathy and put yourself in the shoes of other people so that you can understand the madness. How did we get to where we're at? And justifying it. All right, so we don't play games here. Authenticity is what my Buddhist practice is about. I practice Buddhism, and it's about authenticity and about doing away with the layers of our neurosis so we can get to the authentic self. And that is what I'm trying to do here. I really want to I've been wanting to understand since I was born the monster and love the monster. And I'm not going to change. And I apologize if I've been misunderstood, and I send love and blessings to everybody, but demonizing the other side is not going to take this nation where we need to go. But that's very different than saying we should not have international trials and hold people accountable and have a moral standing for this nation. So which I believe we do. We need to have some change. And in terms of just foster care, if you're really upset about children in cages, and if you think detention centers are terrible, and if you think child rape is terrible, please consider becoming a foster parent. Please consider taking one of these children in our foster care system, many of whom are severely disabled. They have G-tubes, they have brain damage in many cases because their parents had drug alcoholism backgrounds. Take one of the children, particularly the physically disabled ones, and then you can be part of the change that you want to see in the world. All right, thanks for watching, everyone. We'll see you next time. Bye. Okay, so I shot this video earlier today. Now I'm at my offices, and I just wanted to let people know that that was a little bit about my story. I don't like to go into my story too much because I don't want to be the discussion. I'd really like to just be an empath reporting what I feel or what I sense or perceive exist in the mind of the other person, and not put my story into the mix. The only reason I'm putting my story into the mix here today is so that, again, people understand where I'm coming from and how I learned to do what I do. And again, apologies if my anger was harsh. I'm only human. Be well, my friends. Take care. Bye.